How to make money in business. Welcome to Achieving Success Through Failure. In starting a business, you have to look at the product or service that you're going to be offer. And the question is it something that you can monetize? Monetize will require two things. Number one is there a demand for the product, or is there an increased interest that drives this demand? The other thing is how much competition are you actually having, in which to penetrate the market you would have to perform advertising or create interest to your product. So in understanding the business, the basic concept is actually bridging the consumer to the product, which then generates a sale or transaction. So how do you actually make money? So the question would be how to scale, because that would lead to generating more transactions / more sales, which then would lead to an increase in revenue. So by scaling, you want to increase the number of sales. So how do you do this? Number one is through marketing, which would then focus on increasing your customer base. The other one is actually increasing your production. When you are basically looking at a demand which is unfulfilled, let's say you're making 1,000 of your product, but the demand is 20,000, then you can increase production line to accommodate for the demand which is needed. Lastly is actually increasing revenue through increasing price, in which that would be something that you could perform if the demand is very high and there is a limited supply, and that would basically increase your profit margin per product sold. So with regards to understanding the production line, if you are creating a product which you are starting from scratch, you have to understand manufacturing, and this may require raw materials, assembly, and manpower. A perfect example is actually selling fish. When you're going to be working in a fish pond doing this, you would need hatchlings, and then you would need all the resources to maintain the cleanliness, salinity of the water, the feeds, and harvesting as well. These are all aspects which go towards the product manufacturing. Next aspect is the management. They are the ones who are going to be in charge of oversight of the whole work line. Anything that needs to be bought, anything that needs to be paid, all the networks, all the outsourcing that needs to be done, and they're going to be coordinating the marketing and sales of the product as well with that team, in which you have to be maintaining your balance sheet. For marketing and sales, the most important aspect of their task is developing the transaction by connecting the consumer to the product, which then leads to the generation of sales. This then leads to another form in which you're actually skipping the product line and actually just purchasing a product. And when you do purchase a product, it has to be the right price, wherein you could actually add profit and then sell the product. And from there, your main focus is actually scaling of the company in order to generate an increase in revenue. And this would require two things. One would be the management, and the other one would be the marketing and sales. Management would then be in charge of inventory of the product and all the other aspects of maintaining the company afloat. Same as the other aspect, marketing and sales is going to be very integral to scaling your company. So now we're going to be looking at what management has to do. So on making a small company, it has to actually be taking care of capital. Of course, you're going to be needing funds, number one, as a startup, and all the things that you need to pay in order to get your product, your marketing and your sales all set. You also have to form the corporate blueprint and plan because starting out, you have to have your product and your inventory, the payables, as well as the network of associates to whom the company will be relying and outsourcing. It is very important that management does a very good job in performing a well balanced financial statement. This include obtaining all collectibles, purchase orders, and looking at the balance sheet by deducting all your expenses, taxes, and cost of supplies. Products could either be physical, digital, or proprietary. On the other hand, skill set can also be sold. Monetizing skills depend on number one, their complexity of the task. The more complex the task, the higher the charge that someone can obtain. And a good explanation to this one is a neurosurgeon. You pay good amount of money to have brain surgery so that you can have a safe one and a good one compared to someone that who is performing a basic task that can be done by hundreds of other people. The second one is an increase in demand. If you are competing against a lot of people for a certain task to be performed by a certain group or a person, then that increase in demand may translate to an increase in charges because of the limited availability slash time that can be allocated. Other things that can actually increase charges is the translation of the performance of task to an increase in business revenue. A perfect example is coaching. Why do people pay $20,000 to $250,000 for coaching? Well, let's say you have a $100,000 business and the $20,000 coaching then allows you to generate 500,000 or a 5-time increase in revenue. And in that aspect, you can then justify why you had paid the amount of money you did because it increased your outcome and it is covered by your expenses. So how do you scale a business that is based on skill? Number one, when you have created a brand or a demand, then your price can go up, and that is one way of scaling. Number two, if you're able to perform, let's say, a specific task, five tasks a day, and you want to increase it to 10, then you can focus your energy performing that task by hiring other people to perform other works not related to that task as a delegation so that you can increase the task being performed. Overall, this focus on increasing more task performance. But the biggest problem here is that you are limited in growth by only allowing a certain group of people performing these tasks. So the question is, how do I increase my ceiling so that I can actually grow? And that is where branding actually comes in, when they're paying not only for a person, but actually for the brand, in which this allows you to hire more people working as a high functioning employee for the company and the brand, which would then lead to increase in task performance and allow you to multiply your growth and revenue and then scale. I hope this presentation is able to answer a good amount of questions with regards to understanding the whole concept of how businesses make money and how you can actually embark on your journey, but most importantly, understanding it first before you jump in. This is Paul Del Prado. Please click the like and subscribe button. If you guys have any comment, questions, feel free to type it in the chat, and I'll see you next week.